Welcome to the Quick Bite series from the Insurance Domain Training Center. In this video, we will cover Topic 2 of the mock interview for the Information Technology Business Analyst position. This video focuses on functional requirements for business analysis.
So you're gearing up for a business analyst interview. You've landed in the perfect spot. We're going to skip the boring textbook stuff today. Instead, we're jumping straight into a live practice run. Think of this as your personal coaching session before the big day.
All right, let's get into it. We're going to simulate a real interview. And the star of our show today is a topic every BA must know inside and out: functional requirements. We'll be running through the questions you're almost guaranteed to hear. Ready? Let the mock interview begin.
All right, let's get started. First off, could you explain to me what functional requirements are and, why are they so crucial for any project?
Yes, certainly. So, in simple terms, functional requirements are all about defining the specific behaviors or functions a system absolutely has to perform. They basically describe what the system should do, from its processes to the data it handles. They're incredibly important because they act as the blueprint, the guide that developers use to build the system and that testers use to make sure it's been built correctly.
That's a very clear way to put it. Now, to make it even more real, could you give me a few concrete examples?
Of course. Some really common examples would be things like the system must let users log in using their username and password. Another one from e-commerce is that a customer must be able to add items to their shopping cart and then go to the checkout. Or maybe something like the system needs to generate a sales report every month. Each one of these describes a very specific action the system has to perform.
Excellent examples. Now, this is a common point of confusion, so I'd like to hear your take. How do you separate functional requirements from business requirements?
That's a great question because the difference is huge. It really comes down to the level of detail and what they're focusing on. Business requirements are the big picture. They tell you why we're even doing the project. For example, a business might say, we need to increase customer retention by 20%. That's the why. Functional requirements, then, are the what. What system features will help us achieve that goal? So for that goal, a functional requirement might be the system needs a loyalty points feature that tracks and rewards customer purchases. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So building on that, how would you describe the relationship between the two? Well, they're directly connected, kind of like a parent and child. It all starts with the business requirement. That's the why, the whole reason the project exists. The functional requirements are then born from that why. They translate that high-level goal into specific, concrete system actions, explaining how the system will actually work to make that business goal a reality. So one flows directly into the other.
Excellent. Let's tackle another key distinction. What's the difference between functional and non-functional requirements?
Right, this is a really crucial one to get right. Like we've said, functional requirements define what a system does, the specific tasks it performs. So for example, the system must allow a user to reset their password. Non-functional requirements, or NFRs, are all about how well the system does its job. They focus on qualities like performance, security, or how easy it is to use. So an NFR might be, the password reset page must load in under 2 seconds, or the system must be able to handle 1,000 people using it at the same time.
Good! You've clearly got the concepts down pat. Let's switch gears to the practical side of things. What are some of the biggest challenges you might face when you're actually trying to gather these functional requirements?
Oh, definitely. In the real world, you always run into a few common hurdles. For starters, stakeholders sometimes don't know exactly what they want, so their input can be a bit vague. Then there's the classic communication gap you have to bridge between the business folks and the tech team. Of course, the big one is managing changing requirements, what we call scope creep. And finally, you often have to play mediator and resolve conflicting requirements from different departments. It's a balancing act.
And how would you, as the business analyst, go about validating those requirements to make sure everyone agrees and they are correct? Validation isn't just one thing, it's a whole process. First and foremost, you've got to conduct formal reviews with stakeholders to get their sign-off. Second, traceability is key. You have to be able to link every single functional requirement back to an original business need. Third, and this one is super effective, is using visuals. Creating things like wireframes or prototypes helps stakeholders see what they're getting. And finally, you do peer reviews with the technical team to make sure what we're proposing is actually possible to build.
That's a very solid process. Just a quick clarifying question for you. Can functional requirements also include things like business rules or constraints?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, they often do.
These rules are a core part of the system's function. For example, a functional requirement wouldn't just be calculate a discount. It would be more specific, like the system must calculate discounts based on these predefined business rules. Or another one could be, users cannot access this specific data unless they have manager-level authorization. These rules define the function.
Understood. Okay, for my final question, once you have this whole list of validated functional requirements, how do you decide what to build first? How do you go about prioritizing them? Well, luckily, we have some great industry-standard techniques for that. The Moscow method is probably one of the most popular. You could also do a value versus effort analysis. That helps you find the quick wins. Other ways include things like stakeholder voting or getting everyone in a room for collaborative workshops to build consensus on what's most important.
And just to elaborate a bit on Moscow, because it's such a lifesaver, it's brilliant for bringing clarity. It basically forces stakeholders to categorize every single requirement into one of 4 buckets: must-haves, which are totally non-negotiable; should-haves, which are important but not critical for the first launch; could-haves, which are nice-to-haves; and won't-haves, which are explicitly out of scope for now. It is a fantastic tool for managing everyone's expectations.
Excellent. That covers all of my questions. Thank you for your time. And that's a wrap on our mock interview. Let's quickly break down what made those answers so strong. Did you notice the pattern? Always start with a clear, simple definition. Then, immediately back it up with specific examples. Clearly explain the differences between functional, business, and non-functional requirements. And don't just say what you do. Explain why processes like validation and prioritization are so important. It shows you get the real-world challenges. Keep these tips in your back pocket and you'll do great. Thanks for joining this coaching session.
Please note that this content is from Insurance Domain Training Center and have the copyright on it. The audio and video presentation are AI generated using Google Notebook LLM. For official terms and intellectual property rights, please visit our website, www.insudat.com, and Terms of Service page. Thank you for watching the Quick Bite series from www.insudat.com. Please like and subscribe to our videos for you to get notification when we upload new videos.